I don't usually use this, but it's there, so I better. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Vesuvius regular open meeting of council, September the 10th, 2024, 2 p.m. in council chambers. So the first thing is the approval of the agenda. And are there any late items? Mrs. Robinson, thank you. We have approved Councillor King, Councillor Puerto Rico, all in favor. Thank you. And the adoption of the minutes, the regular open minutes of August the 13th. Need a motion to adopt those, please? Councillor Bennett, Councillor Puerto Rico, all in favor. Thank you. And first up on our agenda today, there is a public hearing. And I will call the public hearing to order, and I will read the statement of the chair. This public hearing is convened pursuant to Section 464 of the Local Government Act, RSBC 2015, to allow the public to make present representation to council respecting matters contained in Zoning Bylaw number 1395/2024. Every person present who believes that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaw shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard respecting matters contained in the proposed bylaw. None of you will be discouraged or prevented from making your views known. However, it is important that you restrict your remarks to matters contained in the proposed bylaw. If you wish to speak once it is time for public representation and are attending in person, please proceed to the microphone. And I'm hoping that you've put your name down on the list here. And commence your remarks clearly by stating your name and address. If you wish to speak and are attending virtually, please virtually raise your hand. If you are unsure how to do this, you can find the information on the town's website. It will be your turn to speak once your name and phone number has been called. Your microphone will be unmuted and you may commence your remarks by clearly stating your name and address. Once you have finished speaking, your microphone will be muted. If they wish, members of council may ask you questions following your presentation. However, the function of council at this public hearing is to listen to you rather than to debate the merits of the proposed bylaw. In accordance with the council procedure bylaw, presentations by members of the public shall be limited to a maximum of 5 minutes each. If a person has additional information that they are unable to provide within that time frame, they shall be given further opportunity to address council after all other interested members of the public have been heard a first time. Please refrain from applause or other expressions of emotion during this public hearing, so that we may ensure as impartial a hearing as possible. After this public hearing is adjourned, council members will not speak to the public on this matter until after the matter has been dealt with at a public meeting. After this public hearing has concluded, council may, without further notice, give whatever effect council believes proper to the representations made at this hearing. We have received several pieces of correspondence. There are 5 of them. They are included in the agenda. And so now I will ask for presentations, and could we please have a staff report by Planner Mr. Garish? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll just wait for my PowerPoint to pop up here and then I can get going. Sorry. Great. So I'll just start with some background slides for context to explain the project, which is the zoning bylaw review, which is the subject of the bylaw before you. So as council is aware, a review of the town's official community plan was completed in April of 2022. The OCP identified a number of projects, one of which was the updating of the zoning bylaw to reflect the direction of the new OCP, which is generally considered good practice. The OCP also included some specific directions that council had supported as part of the review, that the zoning bylaw update was to take into consideration. And the example I have here is allowing accessory dwellings in additional residential zones. In terms of the current town bylaw or zoning bylaw itself, as council is aware, it is fairly old now, having been adopted in 1998. It's been amended approximately 150 times in the intervening 26 years. And when you have a bylaw of that age that's been amended that many times, there is a concern that various issues might have been incorporated into it, such as inconsistencies or conflicts, and that really reviewing your zoning bylaw on a regular basis is considered, again, good practice, as with the OCP. And that has led us to this current project, which has been going on since late 2022, obviously after the OCP was adopted. Multiple presentations to council on the various items contained in the draft since that time. The draft itself was presented to council at committee of the whole back on June 11th. There was an engagement process that was completed in July and August of this year, and then first and second reading were approved by council on August 8th with the further direction to schedule this public hearing for today. A big consideration in this project, as council is aware, have been recent legislative changes to the Local Government Act enacted by the provincial government. And this is all in relation to the provincial priority on encouraging increased small-scale multi-unit housing in existing residential zones. And so there's been specific densities that the town has had to incorporate into its new zoning bylaw, which we'll touch on in a couple of slides, and also some guidance from the minister as to how a zone should be structured to ensure that there is a favorable regulatory environment to encourage new residential development going forward, which again, I'll touch on some slides here. So again, the biggest change to the zoning is again, this new provincial direction. In terms of the flexibility that the province is proposing or is requiring local governments to consider, we are proposing that 6 of the existing low density residential zones be consolidated down into a new single residential zone, RS1, that the range of permitted forms of dwellings and densities be reflective of provincial legislation. So that includes incorporation of apartment buildings, duplexes, townhouses, secondary suites, and accessory dwellings into this new RS1 zone. Density at the moment, and I have an asterisk here because we're only setting out the minimum required by the province at this point, which is 2 dwellings per parcel. Of course, because the town of Osoyoos is a rural growth, a primary growth area under the South Okanagan Regional Growth Strategy, and because there is municipal water and sewer, the legislation actually requires a higher density. But as council is aware, and I have slides that speak to this at the end, there has been an extension request made to the province, so I'll save that till the end. Other changes to the residential zones being proposed to reduce parcel line setbacks, increase building height for principal and accessory dwellings, introduce a maximum parcel coverage, revise minimum parcel sizes for subdivision, removing the secondary suite floor area restrictions, and also reducing the number of on-site vehicle parking requirements for single detached duplexes, et cetera. Other proposed zoning changes, and I want to qualify that, of course, because of the scope of this project, it's hard to capture everything in a PowerPoint. So what are shown on the next few slides are just some highlights, but definitions have been reviewed and updated again, reflecting on the age of the current zoning bylaw. A lot's changed, and the definitions have been amended to reflect that. Cannabis sales now get to be considered as a retail use, so that's a change from the current zoning bylaw. New definition of agriculture indoor to be introduced to address cannabis production, and that be allowed in the industrial zone. A more flexible, less prescriptive approach to home occupations is being introduced. As part of that, bed and breakfast is being separated out as its own use class. Some new language around mobile vendors to address what's currently in the town's business licensing bylaw. And also some more flexibility in the town center zone to not mandate commercial on the ground floor, but to allow flexibility so that developers, property owners could have commercial or could have residential or theoretically even a mix. So just flexibility. Some other new regulations clarifying when and how an RV can be used as a dwelling unit on a short-term basis when a new house is being constructed on a parcel. Transitioning the regulations for docks, boat lifts, swimming platforms, and some other water foreshore zones out of the town's current foreshore and lake zoning bylaw into the main new zoning bylaw. Some new subdivision regulations related to hooked and panhandle parcels, a new service commercial 1 zone to be applied to existing service stations, regulations for retaining walls, and again, the update of floodplain regulations, and again, just for clarification, the asterisk is recognizing that there is a separate ongoing project. So while there are some new aspects to the floodplain regulations in the draft zoning bylaw, we're anticipating those to be changed yet again when the other floodplain bylaw review is completed. As council may be aware, there's also a number of small OCP amendments accompanying the zoning bylaw. First part is to deal with some development permit designations that were missed as part of the previous OCP amendment that was done before the new zoning bylaw. And these are basically a reflection of parcels that were zoned comprehensive development and that were missed when we did our map analysis to transition to the new DPs. And then the second component is in relation to a parcel on Lakeshore that is being proposed for medium density and multifamily residential. And again, that's part of the transition out of the CD zones. And then, yeah, so as I mentioned earlier on in the presentation, so an extension request has been submitted to the province in relation to SSMU implementation. The province had required those by June 1st with a commitment to provide comment back to applicants by June 30th. Just clarifying again, because I know this has been asked at previous committee meetings, but we have not yet received any response from the province on the extension request. So that's why the draft of zoning bylaw 1395 is only establishing 2 units per parcel and not the 3 to 4 that the town is otherwise required to have. But we're anticipating that when we do receive a response from the province, if it's positive, then the zoning bylaw will stay as is in relation to residential densities. But if the province rejects the extension, we have 90 days under the legislation to bring the bylaw into compliance. So we'll just have to wait for the province on this particular aspect. But you can see here from the screenshot that, I mean, this just shows how we've adjusted the RS1 zone to reflect where the extension request is at the moment. So that's it for my PowerPoint, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garish. The next part of our public hearing is that we're going to ask for public input. So I will call you, call up your name, and you may come up to the microphone, state your name and address, and speak. There is a 5-minute regulation on this, so it's no more than 5 minutes. You could come back if you had more to say after we're done. At the end of the public presentations, I will ask our planner to respond to any new information that has been brought up or anything that he would like to clarify that has come up in this public hearing. So we will start. First of all, I would like to ask Karen Somerset to come up, please. You need to turn on the little button. You've got it. So it shows red. That's it. Go ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I have earlier sent to you a detailed description of the subject matter that I was referring to today, and that is the Town of Asoya zoning bylaw, is specifically referring to the campground commercial CT2 zone and general regulations. Because I have 5 minutes only, that's why I thought it was best that I sent you more detailed information ahead of time. But my main concern is that there's appearing a lack of knowledge by the town about the recreational industry, the campground tourism environment, and what the actual interest and needs of the traveling public are in the campground sector. I do think some of the definitions skim over what's essential and what's needed as part of that environment, and also that the point that RV rental options are not going to be accepted under tourist accommodation. We have a lot of traveling public that do come into the resort, Island View RV Resort. And we also have a lot of local commercial RV industry that brings in trailers for people that come and use that very resource to spend their summer holidays. However, the town is now making a choice to not allow that to happen. And I think that is quite punitive without thinking about the results from that. Another item was the 3 consecutive month statement, maximum stay on a site. We also sponsor snowbirds in our seasonal rentals, and those rentals do come with the mindset that they're going to be there for up to 6 months. And they are a contributing source to the winter months here when the seasonal summer people have left. And some of them are even employees at Nesters, you know, when they're here. So we're just hoping that you'll take into consideration the points that I made that are more detailed inside of that. But I do have a second set of quick points I want to add on that, because on top of the commercial realm of Island View RV Resort. The matter that it actually is a privately owned development. It's a bare land strata developed in 2004. It contains 111 individually deeded and privately owned sites, and these are taxed by the town of Osoyoos as residential lots. So as these are private properties and taxed as residential, we ask how the town can reasonably assume to stipulate or impose a bylaw usage restriction on these properties and their owners. We would ask that the council needs to recognize that we continue to contribute as owners and support the economy and local businesses of Osoyoos long after the summer tourist season is over, and of course, continuing through our taxation on our properties. Owners of these sites are not willing to turn their private property over for use as a public campground just for the town's benefit, but are willing to work together to allow recreational usage of our lots. We'd like the town to take the time to consider that facet and think carefully about how we can work together as key stakeholders.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your positive comments there too at the end. I'm just going to check and see when, after people speak, if there's anybody on council that has a question or would like to ask something. No? Oh, go ahead, Councillor
Madam Mayor.
King.
Mr. Garris, could you just give us an overview of a campsite compared to an RV lot, or are they one and the same?
Is that the best way to do it, Chris, or would you rather wait till the end and answer all the questions? It's perfectly all right with me, whatever you choose.
It's council's pleasure. I'm here to help.
We
answer
were going to
queries,
have
but-
him answer them at the end, but if
Oh,
that's all right, go
I might
ahead.
forget.
Yeah, go ahead if you can, please.
Well, so based on the little information I have, I'm inclined to say they're one and the same, right? Like it's, if from our perspective, if the zone is set up for short-term tourist accommodation, that's how the site is supposed to be used. And if it's a residential zone, then that's how the site is supposed to be used. In this instance, my understanding, the campground zone is a tourist commercial zone, and it's got limitations in the current bylaw, which are being carried forward into the new bylaw unchanged, that try to reinforce that this is for the short-term accommodation of the traveling public. It was never meant, my understanding, based on what I've seen in historical zoning bylaws, to be a residential development. Even though I understand that's how it's being used, because obviously BC assessment has considered it as a residential development.
Did you have a question?
I mean, Richard,
Go
just
ahead,
since we're on
please.
that topic, just confirming here, thank you, Mr. Garish. The C5 current zoning on that property, the occupancy requirement, no less, or sorry, no more than 182 days, that does carry over to the new proposed zoning, that's correct? So it does that, that limitation already exists on that property, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next on our list of people asking to speak is Brock Pendergraft. Thank you. The right-hand one, just press it. There. Thanks. Go ahead,
Hello, Mayor
please.
and Council. Brock Pendergraft, 7007 97th Street, Osoyoos. I submitted a bunch of comments in the public part, and I wanted to speak more on my single largest concern, which was the minimum parcel area as it pertains to the low-density residential housing. And for reference, that's currently proposed at 1,000 square meters, which is greatly larger than any of the current zones. At the previous public information session, or I think it was the first reading of the bylaw, the planning staff put together a list showing all the setbacks. And with that list, I have gone through and looked at the comparative zoning bylaws for other places that have already implemented 3 to 4 units per parcel, just to give you a frame of reference. Penticton has a large lot residential at 560 or a small lot residential at 390 square meters. Summerland is either 260 or 460. Peachland is the largest at 700. West Kelowna is 550. Vernon, 500. Merritt has a different structure depending on if the lot's a corner lot or the type of building on the lot, but they range from 270, 360, or 540. Lumbee is 450. Lake Country has 2 zones, either 500 or 400. Coldstream is 600. Enderby has 2 zones, either 560 or 450. Armstrong has 420, pardon me. And closest to us, Oliver has passed their zoning bylaw with 350 square meters. As you can see, these are all significantly less than the 1,000 square meter current proposal. The average of these zones is 462 square meters across various places. Having our zoning bylaw being significantly larger than any of these other places asks the question, why? In terms of an actual usable area of a lot, we're proposing a 40% or a 50% coverage. I've run some numbers here to give you an idea of how big of a house you can build on a lot. If the lot was 350 square meters at 40% coverage, you could get 1,500 square feet of floor space. That's per floor, so 2 floors, 3,000. 400, 1,720. 500, 2,150. And if you maintained the current proposal, you would be allowed 4,300 square feet of floor space. As you can see, if you built anything reasonable, 350 square meters on 2 floors would give you 3,000 square feet, which is more than enough for any type of typical duplex. To illustrate this, 5 strata developments in the past few years that we've done. 3 at the fire hall are 2 units each, or 2 strata lots, I'll say, rather than units. 514 square meters, 458 square meters, and 518 square meters. 5 units on Loon, 857 square meters, and 4 units by the elementary school at 641 square meters. And there's 2 other older ones by that as well. I think all of these strata lots and development guidelines should illustrate that in order to create lots, we don't need 1,000 square meters. We need a reasonable amount for a house that you can put on it to increase that density. I would ask that council carefully consider the actual area minimum and what that entails for what is needed to produce low density housing across our town. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brock. Anybody have any questions? No, thank you so much. And next on our list is Dawna Elsasser. Sorry if I haven't pronounced that properly. Please come up.
Hi, I'm Dawna Elsasser from Island View RV Resort Ltd, which owns lot 111 at 5005 Lakeshore Drive. So basically, I have sent in a letter already describing the commercial aspect of our lot operating at the entrance to Island View RV Resort and my concerns over the possible consequences of the new zoning. So we're the only commercial lot operating in that resort and has been done so for quite some time. Our tax assessment, I believe, is residential/business. And I would like to request, in addition to my letter, this is an additional item, to request that lot 111 be a campground site-specific C22's regulations to include our business operations. I found a precedent set in 14.4.8 that this has already been done in the community. So, so should the rezoning go forward, that's what I would like to have happen. Okay, and that we would like to continue being part of offering services for the traveling public. Okay. And that's it. Thanks, Council and Mayor, for.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Now, my list has been completed, and so I'm going to check and see if anyone from the public wishes to present or come up to the microphone and speak at this time.
Good afternoon, Mayor
Thank you. Yeah.
and
or
councillors.
afternoon.
Mr. Garish. My name's Ray Renault, and I live at 3613 Jasmine Drive. And if you've got an email address, you've probably received all the correspondence that you'll ever want to get from any citizen that you got from me. So I hope I kept it light reading for you. We represent several concerned citizens on Jasmine Drive. And it centers around the previous bylaw that dealt with the foreshore, and I'll refer to it. Zoning Bylaw 1294-12. And in that particular bylaw, it had a specific reference to our properties on Jasmine Drive, allowing us to apply to the town for a permit in order to retain our docks in front of our properties. That was a win for us because we finally got recognition that the legacy agreement from the town to the residents along this very unique area would be permitted to leave their docks where they are and continue on with life as it's been for many years. When the 1395 bylaw was proposed, the particular section that referred to us was deleted. And so I began discussions with town council through correspondence to understand what alternative would be proposed in order to maintain the integrity of the section as it pertained to us in the original bylaw. We had an excellent meeting with Ms. Garish and Ms. Dong. The mayor has been gracious in responding to a couple of emails, but we've been left with no other guidance or suggestions or indications whatsoever as to what's going to happen. So two things are possible. You are either deeply embroiled in finding a solution, which we don't and aren't aware of, or two, you're ignoring it altogether in hopes it goes away. I don't know the answer to that. But seeing as this is the last public hearing, and I submitted another letter to all of you on the 5th of September, the only feedback that we've gotten was the quotes from Mr. Garish, who says, administration does not consider this semi-waterfront parcel provision to be a zoning regulation. It is more akin to an application requirement better located in a document such as the town's land use procedures bylaw, or possibly as a policy statement in the town's OCP bylaw, e.g. as a willingness by council to consider such applications for use of the lake subject to certain criteria being satisfied. He also said in his recommendations, administration considers the quotes lake health assessment project and renewal of the license of occupation with the province to be the more appropriate venue in which established policy and subsequent zoning regulations for use of the lake by upland property owners. I read that several times. I'm not quite sure what all that means, but I thought that perhaps all of you would be taking these recommendations and offer some direction today as to what's going to happen to our inquiry about that particular area. So I thought I'd get up this afternoon and share a thought. My 5 minutes are up. But I want to ask the question, and perhaps someone can give us an answer. Is something being considered to replace the provisions that were in the previous bylaw to give us residents along Jasmine Drive the assurance that we'll be able to continue having docks in front of our properties? I think that's a fair question. Hopefully you can answer today. That's pretty good on the 5 minutes, huh? Okay. Thank you so much for your courtesy. I appreciate and look forward to your response.
Thank you, Mr. Renault. You've asked if we had considered it. It's probably taken more of our time on this particular issue than just about anything else. So believe me, we have tried to look at this from every angle, and we're not just ignoring it. However, we will carry on and we will let Mr. Garish answer at the end. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to, at this time, to this bylaw? All right, then, I don't have to go all through three times and then ask Chris? Okay, fair enough. I will ask for a second time then, if there's anyone who wishes to speak to this bylaw. And I will ask a third time if anyone wishes to speak to this bylaw, this application. Hearing none, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Garish and see if he would like to make some remarks before we close the meeting. Thank you.
Sure. Well, just points of clarification, and only in relation to that last question from Mr. Renaud in relation to the comments that we previously put to council, I believe in committee, in relation to Jasmine Drive. And so what staff was recommending, just to be clear, is that we're aware that there's other projects that council has identified, one of which is the lake health assessment. We're also aware that the current, and I apologize, I know I'm getting the name of the agreement with the province mixed up, license of occupation or a lease agreement over the foreshore has lapsed. However, there's a provision in the previous agreement that allows that to continue forward until such time as we're able to renew. So we have two items that council is going to have to deal with in relation to the lake, and we feel that's the point at which Jasmine or any other situation in the lake within the town's boundaries should be addressed holistically, comprehensively, and at once. And so, yeah, we're not ignoring it. We're aware of the issue. At a staff level, we can see that council has identified other projects to work on, which we think would be the better venue in which to address this issue. And so I know council will be going into strategic planning for 2025 shortly. So we look forward to seeing what your priorities for next year are and how we can potentially maybe fit this in as an item to be worked on.
Thank you very much. Councillor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess the question is, they're kind of caught in between, like if we pass this new bylaw, they're kind of stuck with it. Can we take it back out or can we leave it out if we choose to on this particular area?
Go ahead, Mr. Garish.
Because we haven't done our water one yet, so I'm just curious what effect if we pass this bylaw now would have on their docks.
Well, I will tell you what I told them in the meeting. From our perspective at a staff level, it's not going to have an impact. The provision, and again, Mr. Renaud quoted straight from the staff report, and I stand behind what we said to council previously, that provision in the existing foreshore and lake zoning bylaw to us is not a regulation. It's simply restating something that's already set out in provincial legislation, which is that a property owner has the right to submit an application or an agent on behalf of the property owner, if they're properly authorized, the council has to consider. And so the question for Jasmine is, have they been authorized by the property owner to submit an application to use the foreshore for dock purposes? That's set out by legislation. It doesn't need to be in the town's bylaw. It's not providing policy direction. And by not carrying it forward into the new zoning bylaw, it's not adversely affecting them because it's set out by statute. So that's where we landed on that.
I guess the question was then, because technically we own that property, and I know we're kind of short-staffed, but I guess if we work towards an idea of an application like they used to be able to do before to allow them, I mean, I don't know where that sits in all our conversation. Not that you might have an answer, but maybe staff does.
Well, for clarification, and again, this goes back to a previous committee of the whole discussion. Obviously we're aware of the issue, Jasmine, as we are, because I know the other comments about campground, but because of the statutory changes last year in relation to Bill 44 and the deadlines that we had to get your zoning bylaw updated from, we came to council and asked for direction on some of these items to put them off until after the zoning bylaw is done. And so, sorry, I've lost my train of thought now. I hate to say this, can you just repeat the last part of your question?
I guess to me, it sounds like if we agree with what you just said,
that's
they
right.
can go ahead with what they have right now
Yeah.
till 2, 3, 4, 6 months till we do our water assessment.
So sorry. thank you for jogging my memory. So where I was going with that is that we obviously have the opportunity to come back and look at any aspect of the lake zone that we're proposing. But because of the time constraints and the other work that we had to do in relation to Bill 44, we haven't had a chance to get in depth into the town's lease agreement with the province. So we don't know what parameters or conditions are within that agreement and what it may or may not allow the town to do in terms of formalizing some of these uses or occurrences on Crown land out into the lake. So that we would need time to investigate that, come up with a better understanding of it, and provide options to council as to how it may wish to proceed in light of that agreement with the Crown or over the lake foreshore. So
So I imagine that's not part of this contract, but are we moving forward with that somewhere in the future? Do you aware?
well, my recommendation would be to council be this is something that you really need to consider putting on as a strategic project. Your existing license with the Crown has lapsed. We need to get some direction on this as how we're going to proceed with it. Are we renewing it? Are we not renewing it? What are the implications of either of those options, especially in terms of enforcement or resources or additional planning projects going forward? So.
And I guess because we've asked for an extension and there's going to be an election and we don't know who's going to win, this could all be kind of a waste of time. Hopefully not. I mean, I'm sure your time is valuable.
Well, no, I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to remain, it's Crown land. And the town, through those license of occupation, undertook certain commitments to the province in terms of how it was going to administer that land on behalf of the province. And so we need, that has to be addressed, but I'm sorry, like I'm getting off tangent here. This is beyond the scope of the zoning bylaw review, but
My thinking is that the properties and the docks are going to stay exactly the way they are at the moment because we haven't made any changes, and we're not about to make changes until we look at the lease over the foreshore, the license of occupation, and the lake health. And we don't know how long that's going to take. So at the moment, we are not making any changes to what has already been there for some time. And we know it's confusing, and we know that it's going to take some time to look at this, but it's not happening today, and it may take a while. So everything is fine at the moment, just to stay the way it is. Go ahead, Councillor Chung.
Thank you. Well, I think one of the prevailing themes throughout this whole process is with 150 amendments over, what was it, how many years? Quarter century. So basically when I was 18, from that point on, there were 150 amendments. With those amendments, what ended up happening was brought to council is a string of inefficiencies. Certain things in the OCP did not really belong there. There were other areas where it could be more efficient and clear that if you want X, Y, and Z, it should be an application or DP, et cetera. And through your hard work, we've been able to streamline a lot of the OCP, and I think that's been creating more clarity. With that said, with respect with Jasmine, it's my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that this is not a zoning regulation issue, it is an application issue. And with that said, we still have to create that application route, but in the meantime, everything that is currently going on stays as is until there are additional changes to the application and with regard with the lake health assessment and license of occupation. But I just, less of a question and more of a point of clarification, that I personally would like to have this on the strategic goals as soon as possible so that we can appropriately address it. But am I relatively correct in those statements?
Sure, through the mayor. Yeah, it's essentially correct. I mean, obviously, an application process would theoretically be supported by policies that you could potentially build into your OCP. And if those policies speak to specific direction in relation to zoning, that the zoning bylaw would be amended in order to maybe not facilitate, but to ensure that any application that's coming in for a dock, especially if it's a discretionary one that requires council approval, is supported by your policies and your zoning regs, right? So there's a number of different steps that would have to be or I guess amendments that would have to be made to the land use bylaws to reflect whatever comes out of the lake health assessment, the negotiation with the province over the license of occupation and anything else in relation to the lake that the council might want to see done. So, yeah, but it's all part and parcel. So.
And I just also wanted to expand that with respect to Island View and other unique areas in Osoyoos as well, because of the time crunch for Bill 44 and what we need to submit. I have full confidence that we will address these more unique situations so that, of course, we're a resort municipality and tourism is highly valued. And once we kind of approve the OCP as it stands, then we can revisit these specific situations and create a more amenable solution for all. Would that be kind of our thought process?
Yeah, very much so. Again, through the mayor, with the campgrounds, again, we recognize that there was a commitment made in 2021 to have the zoning bylaw review address the situation with the C5 zone. However, again, because of the provincial changes that came down in the fall of 2023 and the statutory deadlines, a request was made to council to defer the campground review until after the zoning bylaw has been adopted. And certainly from a staff perspective, we see this as an important project for 2025, and we're hopeful that council shares that opinion and puts it on as something for us to work on. So,
Yeah, thank you,
Councillor
Brandon.
King.
Just back to the lady that presented about the commercial property, and she was suggesting maybe a different zone. Would it be proper for her to come back at another time and ask for a rezoning, or could it be discussed after this meeting? If we are looking at it after this.
yeah, through the mayor, it's a fine line sometimes between the scope within which a property zoning can change as part of a zoning bylaw review, and versus when it may be more appropriate for them to submit a rezoning application. In this particular context, and again, without having any sense of a scope from council as to what the campground bylaw review might look like or zoning review might look like, I would encourage them to wait for that project to be completed, because it may be that the changes that come out of it address their concerns without them having to do a rezoning application.
But I wasn't talking about the campground. I was talking about one specific piece of property that has the store and washer and dryers and stuff.
Yeah, but it's
Kind of like the management piece of property,
that-
111, I think it was.
that one's within a campground, though, isn't it?
It's within the campground.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it needs to be considered as part of the campground. Okay. So that will also be looked at further after the zoning bylaw hopefully is passed. Thank you. All right, so now what I'm just checking, we're going to adjourn the meeting and we're done with all of the procedure. Okay, perfect. Could I please have a motion to adjourn the public hearing for zoning bylaw 1395/2024? Thank you, Councillor Potterica, Councillor King, all in favor. Thank you very much. And thank you to everyone that attended. The next thing that we're going to look at is the zoning bylaw, of course. There we go. We've adjourned it. Now we're looking at the zoning bylaw. And do we need another report from you? No? So I'm assuming we've had all the information that you're going to provide. And so what we need is that the Town of Osoyoos Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw number 1375.06/2024 and the Town of Osoyoos Zoning Bylaw number 1395/2024 be read a third time. That's what we're looking at right now. Yes, go ahead, a
I guess I
question.
just relate to the gentleman that talked about the size of lots. How we come up with 1,000 square feet and we seem very large compared to everybody in the valley.
Chris, can you answer that?
Sure. So we did discuss this previously at committee. And so our position on that was, sorry, I'm just trying to recall off the top of my head quickly now. Historically, the town zoning bylaw, where a zone allowed for more than 3 units, which has traditionally been your apartment buildings and your townhouses, those zones, recognizing that level of density could occur on a property, set out a minimum parcel size of 1,000 square meters. And so with the changes that came down from the province mandating now that the town has to have or allow for 3 to 4 units through its zoning bylaw, it's like, okay, well, previously the town required 1,000 square meters for those types of parcels. If that's now going to be the default potentially for all of these ones, then 1,000 square meters seems to make sense. I appreciate the comments from Mr. Pendergraph, but you know, what I heard were comments that seemed to me to be related to the development of single detached dwellings. But of course, that's not the direction that we've had to amend the zoning bylaw to address. It's now to allow for duplexes, threeplexes, fourplexes, and how best do you accommodate those going forward. The other consideration that I was aware of at the time when we were drafting the zoning bylaw is that the town is also currently reviewing, and again, this is not new information because it's been discussed at committee, reviewing its development cost charge bylaw. I appreciate the council has not seen that bylaw yet, but one of the lines of thinking is that, you know, the triggers for DCC are historically subdivision and building permit, but because of subdivision potential within the town, there wasn't seen to be much left in relation to single detached dwellings. And I think I had a chart that I presented at committee to show potential based on parcel size. And so the draft DCC bylaw is being premised on charges being applied solely at building permit stage, not so much subdivision. So as those two factors together informed our recommendation to council on 1,000 square meters. There might have been a third consideration, but I apologize, I'm drawing a blank at the moment. But
No. Okay.
Allowing allowing the 40–50% on the 1,000 square meters, you also had to provide a parking space, kind of. You couldn't really max out the numbers he was talking about.
well, so one of the sorry through the mayor. So one of the policy directions provided by the province is that in order to provide flexibility and not impede the development of new housing, small scale, et cetera, that local governments reconsider their on-site vehicle parking requirements. So I think at the moment for a duplex and single detached dwelling, the town zoning bylaw mandates 2 parking spaces per unit. The policy manual recommends going down to 1 per unit, and so that's what we recommended to council. But that seemed to be a floor. Like obviously, I recognize that a developer may just provide the minimum as required, but then they could also provide more depending on the nature of their development and who they're catering to. So, you know, a 3-unit, 4-unit development of a low-density residential parcel could be 3 to 4 parking spaces, but a developer could also choose to provide more. It's just the town is saying 1 per unit in those situations. So, okay.
Okay. Are there any other questions or concerns before we ask for a motion? Is someone willing to move that the 2 bylaws be read a third time? Councillor King, you're recommending that? Thank you. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Poderica. Anything else? I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Against? Thank you. That was Councillor Bennett. All right, thank you very much. That is carried. And now we're going to move on to water matters, water regulations and rates amendment bylaw. Page 126. And that would be Mr. Risling.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, in front of you, we have a request to amend a couple bylaws. As you and the public are aware, we're moving on the installation of water meters. This is critical from a couple of perspectives. First is to assist with the water conservation, give awareness as to the amount of water that you're using. And at some point, we are going to be moving to a billing system that would likely include a flat rate plus a variable rate based on usage. As we're commencing the water meter implementation process, hopefully September 30th is when we're going to start rolling it out and finish it within the following 6-7 months. Hopefully by April, the project's completed. We're anticipating the vast majority of those on the domestic water system are going to comply, but there may be some that need a little extra persuasion on the installation of these meters, and therefore we're seeking an amendment to our bylaws to provide the opportunity for administration to be a little bit more forceful in putting in these meters, and therefore recommending consistent fine between both the within the town boundaries and outside the town boundaries on the installation, the mandatory installation of these water meters. So we're requesting that and it would be about $500 per day if people do not want to have these water meters installed. And therefore, we're requesting that council provide first through third readings of water regulations rates amendment bylaw number 1388.02, 2024, water district rates and regulations amendment bylaw number 1357.08, 2024, and municipal ticketing information amendment bylaw 1279.23, 2024.
Thank you very much. So my assumption is that the first two, the water regulations bylaw and the water district, can be voted on at the same time. All right, so could we have a motion? And my assumption is that, of course, our water counselors are voting on this as well. So everybody is. That the we go to third reading for those two bylaws. Is it, yes?
I don't know if you can answer this time or if this is the proper time. With the water meters going in, I've been asked, say at White Sands, because they're strata owned, everybody would get their own individual meter? And it build it like that? Or?
So I can't answer specifically on each project. I know the consultants have been working with the stratas are the tougher ones.
Yeah.
So some are going to be one water meter at the property line. So that's one of the things they're going to be doing is they go door to door. For the most cases, it's going to be the water meter. There's one inlet or one draw from the line. There'll be one water meter, and some of these individuals or these property owners will determine if they want to further meter their property. So there'll be the ability to do that if that's what the strata or the property owner wants to do. But again, that decision's gonna be made once they get into the details. So I know we've got spreadsheets of information and data, but sometimes that information that we have may not reflect what's in the field. So there's 95% of the properties are probably correct, but some of these stratas, these larger properties may be a little bit different.
And the letter that has been sent out by the town concerning Neptune, which is the company that's going to do it, that they will be available to answer questions and to assist people and to help them deal with that. Am I correct?
That's correct. So hopefully in another couple of weeks, there'll be another letter mailed out. What the plan is to do it geographically. There'll be a website that people can go on and schedule things with. So there's gonna be more communication coming, and Neptune is a big company. They've done this a lot, so they have a lot of expertise with regards to the installation of water meters. So I'm looking forward to working with this company as we go through this change within our community. And again, they have a lot of expertise in this. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Thank you. That's what I thought. Yes, Councillor Appleby. There you go.
Mr. Risling mentioned the $500 fine for failing to tie in. And this bylaw will go beyond this week or next month. And I'm wondering if somebody delays the installation past when the initial thing happens, and we fine them the $500 every day.
Through your worship, so that's what the bylaw indicates. I think council is aware that, there's tons of fines out there that we are not really aggressive on. We want to work with property owners, work with timing. So it's not something that we're going to be using like as all other fines within our several bylaws frivolously. There'll be a lot of communication done with people, and we typically only use fines where we really have true non-compliance.
I appreciate that you're taking some lenience into this. And I guess my only question is if you give somebody a week to come up and toe the mark, and the next guy walks in and it takes 3 weeks,
yeah,
then somebody's going to cry foul.
To your worship, I can assure you it's not to be that strict. There's lots of opportunities to work with the customer. We're not out to go down this route. I've indicated several times, I hate regulations. You know, they are very cumbersome, very time consuming to administer. So the last thing you want to do is start issuing fines. I'd prefer there was no regulations and everybody used what I'd call common sense, because then you have to go through a process of writing tickets. There's a court process. So it's not something that we really like to do. So I can assure you we'll do what we can to work with customers. This isn't intended to get that person that didn't respond to an email within a week. That is not the intent here whatsoever.
Thank you. So to clarify, this is a last resort, basically tool.
Through your worship, absolutely.
We hope that people will realize that this is a positive move, and it's going to take us a while to get it all done. So there's lots of opportunity for people to ask questions and to go through you know, this process with Neptune and with the town. We know it's going to take a while, and there will be questions. All right, so I'm looking for we did it first. Oh, you're moving this, and Zach, you seconding it. So there are no more questions. So we're asking that the water regulations and the water district rates and regulations be read, go through first 3 readings. All in favor? Thank you. That's unanimous. And now the next part is that council provide first through 3rd readings of the Municipal Ticket Information Amendment Bylaw 1279.23. Is that correct? Could we have a motion to move that? Councillor Poderica, Councillor Chong. All in favor? Thank you very much. Nobody was okay, everybody got on that. And so we're good on that. Next is the correspondence, and that would be from the Okanagan Basin Water Board. I was not at this meeting, but I can certainly report to it that that we are still in a drought situation in the entire Okanagan Valley and for most of the province, actually. Fortunately, there's been a little bit cooler weather and there has been some precipitation in many areas, so that has been quite helpful. But drought levels are set by the province, and we right now are at level 3, so that's up there. Make Water Work project, their conservation tips, looking at water restrictions, and a pledge contest, WaterWise, that's still going on. One of the things the OBWB has done is to ask for cross-provincial cooperation, looking at the ability to prevent invasive mussels coming into the province. And because BC, Alberta, and Saskatchewan are mussel-free at this point, the letters have been written to the other 2 provinces asking that we all work together to try and have a campaign to ensure that we do not have, you know, zebra quagga mussels or any other invasive species come into the province. So there are lots and lots of ads on Global News, on the WaterWise websites, sort of reminding people. And as a teacher, I know that it takes 6, 7, 8 times to get people to pay attention to things, and you need to repeat it. So that's what we're doing, repeating it often. I was also just at a really interesting thing, the Okanagan Basin Water Board annual meeting the other day. Zane Marshall from the Southern Nevada Water Authority presented for about an hour, talking to us about all of the things that have gone on down in the Colorado river system. Of course, Zach's favorite place down in Las Vegas is the fastest growing city in North America, apparently, or certainly in the United States. And they're putting in a number of water restrictions because they get a lot of their water from Lake Mead and Lake Powell. And no more golf courses, no spray irrigation, has to be drip irrigation. Non-essential turf is being asked to be removed. Swimming pools are of a very small size. They're really doing this really carefully because they're growing and their water levels are going down. It was quite fascinating, the gentleman. It is a report and slides that are on the Okanagan Basin Water Board webpage. I would recommend that if anybody's interested in that, to please have a look at it because you'll find it quite fascinating. Lessons that we can learn from further north. The other thing is we have a new milfoil harvester that was just purchased this year. And there was a contest for it. And because it's an amphibious milfoil harvester, they've settled on the name Hippo. So you will see it down in Osoyoos Lake sometimes, although they're spread all the way through the Okanagan, but they have been here as well. Anyway, could I have a motion, please, to have the OBWB report received for information? Councillor Poderica, Councillor Chong, all in favor. Thank you. And now we're on to, Ms. Wong. This is Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch referral. Could we ask you to report, please?
Absolutely, and I do have a presentation as well.
you.
Great, thank you. So this item is in relation to file number LCRB 2401. I don't know how often council has the opportunity to consider LCRB referrals, so I figured I would give a little bit of a legislative overview with respect to local government's role in reviewing liquor license applications. So in relation to this particular referral, we'd be looking at the Liquor Control and Licensing Act, as well as the associated Liquor Control and Licensing Regulation. So together, these require that where certain liquor license applications are made, the local government that applies in that case must be notified of that application. Then a local government must then resolve as to whether or not it is going to choose to provide comments on that application to the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch, or opt out of providing comment and of the review process. So if council does want to provide comment on an application, it must take into account a number of prescribed criteria, one of which being the location of the proposed establishment, the capacity of that establishment, as well as the hours of liquor service. Additionally, when it relates to the comments of that it is providing to the LCRB, it must provide these in writing and speak to the impact of the noise on the community in the immediate vicinity of the location of the establishment, or where applicable, the siting of the lounge or special event area, or event sites which are under a temporary use area authorization. And it must also take into consideration the general impact on the community. So the Act and the regulation also lay out how local government must provide those comments, and the way in which council then must gather views of residents. And this is, again, highly prescriptive, but under the Act, a local government must gather views of their residents by way of either receiving written comments, and that would be in relation to a public notice that goes out of the application. They could conduct a public hearing, hold a referendum, or use some other method that council would deem to be appropriate as a means of collecting feedback. Then, having considered the prescribed criteria and gathered views from residents, council then has to provide to the LCRB by resolution the views that it did gather, the methodology that was used to gather those views, a recommendation as to whether or not the council believes that the application should be approved or rejected, as well as the rationale that led council to making that recommendation. So alternatively, council does have the ability to instead opt out of that review process and not provide comments to the LCRB, but this must be communicated by resolution and provided to the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch. Now, where council were to opt out of that review process, the LCRB would actually undertake the public consultation measures that would otherwise have been undertaken by the town. So public consultation would still occur. It's just that the town would not be involved in that case. So that's the background I'm going to give. And with that in mind, we're just going to move forward then to the referral that the town had received. So the referral that we received is in relation to the property at 5211 45th Street. Alternative address is also 4311 Highway 3. The property is designated under the OCP for agricultural purposes, and the zoning is also agricultural. The property is wholly within the agricultural land reserve and is approximately 5.67 hectares in size. And then this might be a bit small for you, so I'll go ahead and spell it out. But the property does contain vineyard as well as a winery tasting building. So this is Lakeside Cellars, right on Lakeshore Drive there, and an on-site store, as well as a wine tasting facility, which is located right at the south end of the property closest to Lakeshore Drive. And that area does include lounge and picnic areas. So the property is the subject of an existing manufacturer license, and that license is does have lounge area, on-site store, and picnic area endorsements. The lounge and patio area endorsement does have a maximum capacity of 150 persons. LCRB staff, in forwarding this referral to us, had indicated that there were no public safety contraventions that were identified during routine and public safety inspections. So the applicant is proposing to amend their existing manufacturer license by permanently extending their hours of liquor service on the subject property. So it wouldn't just be applicable to one building, it would be applicable to all areas of the license. Currently, their operating hours are 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., and this is Monday through Sunday, so 7 days a week. And they are proposing the permanent extension to 9 a.m. to 11 p.m., Monday to Sunday, again, 7 days a week. So just some considerations with respect to the referral. From a planning standpoint, we do recognize that the application is simply requesting a change to their hours. There's no contemplation of structural changes. So in this regard, zoning provisions are not triggered from our standpoint. I did want to point out that the property being zoned agricultural, it doesn't explicitly permit alcohol production facilities under the current zoning bylaw. So this includes wineries. But that being said, because the property is within the ALR and alcohol production is considered to be a designated farm use under the ALC Act and regulations, this cannot be prohibited by a local government bylaw enactment when undertaken in accordance with the specified criteria under the ALR use regulation. So in this case, it is deemed to be compliant with zoning. I did want to point out, though, that although it is within an agricultural area, there is agricultural uses to the west and to the east. There are a few residential parcels which are sprinkled kind of along the west portion of the property, right along Lakeshore Drive there. So there could be impacts to those residential lots and residential use with respect to the proposed extended hours. So council is now being asked then to make a determination with respect to this referral, namely whether or not to opt in and provide comment and then undertake various public consultation measures, or to opt out of that review process with regards to the subject application. So if council does choose to initiate a process for providing comment to the LCRB, we would recommend doing or undertaking consultation via the posting of a public notice on the property, posting of a public notice in a local newspaper, notifying adjacent property owners within a 60-meter radius, being the notification radius which is set out for OCP zoning DVP applications under the Land Use Procedures Bylaw, notifying local RCMP officials, as well as notifying the Town of Asias Fire Department. However, based on the fact that this doesn't trigger any zoning concerns, we are recommending that council does opt out of the LCRB review process. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wong. We have gone through this process a couple of times, and to my recollection, we have always opted out. I don't think we need to give ourselves any more work, but we'll see what council thinks. It seems easier to have the province deal with that. Go ahead, Councillor Chong.
Thank you. Just a point of curiosity, whether we opt in or opt out, does that change the likelihood of success of the application?
So the Liquor Control and Licensing Act does lay out what a general manager can do. So the general manager being that of the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch when it receives a recommendation from a local government. So if a local government were to carry out the public consultation measures and then collect that feedback and make a recommendation, let's say to not issue or amend the license, the LCRB cannot issue or amend that license. However, on the flip side of that, if the recommendation is that it be issued or amended, they would just be taking into consideration the local government's feedback.
Go ahead, Councillor Bennett.
Yes, I would recommend we opt out. I live right next door and they've had music and people singing, and you walk by there, you don't hear anything. There's nothing close by.
So moved and seconded that we go with the staff recommendation. Okay, all in favor? Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Wong. And next is the 44. Mrs. Colson, this is the Regional District Okanagan-Similkameen Temporary Use Permit Referral.
Thank you, Mayor McKortoff. This is a referral that has come to the town of Osoyoos from the Regional District with respect to a temporary use permit referral on behalf of number 38401 120th Avenue, and that is in electoral area A of the Regional District. And they are seeking using the property for a vacation rental use. Our inquiries within the town to the fire department and the operations indicated that our interests are unaffected. So we would like to advise the regional district that our interests are unaffected by the proposed TUP.
Thank you. It concerns me a little bit that the water and sewer systems are provided, that's in Area A, to this property. So I'm assuming that that the fire department and town staff have looked at that and they feel that it is not any different than having a single family house. Is that, can you explain that, please, Mr. Risley?
Your worship, yeah, this was circulated and it's hard to say if usage will change. Maybe it sits vacant for a while. Maybe 3 people go in it 1 week. What's to say they'd rent it out full time? Maybe there's a family of 8. So it's, as far as the usage, I mean, it could vary compared to if a family of 4 is living there, right? So it's yes, really, I think it's really tough to figure out exactly what the impact would be, but in a grand scheme of things, it's not substantial.
Thank you. And I appreciate the fact that the town of Osoyoos has been asked to have a look at this and comment on it. So, council, what would you like to do here with, go ahead with the recommendation that has been provided? Anybody?
Just ask a question.
Yes?
Is a temporary permit just for 1 year, like? Do we have to renew it every year?
Can't remember. I think it's till December 2025. Is that what it looks like on here? Yeah. Okay. So recommended that they be advised that the town of Osoyoos interests are unaffected by the proposed TUP. Does that make sense? Seconded by Councillor Bennett. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Thank you. Less of a question, but more to highlight that it's a single family dwelling and the use would be an operational season of May 1st to October 31st. kind of echoing some of the statements from Mr. Risling regarding water and sewer usage. Again, trying to balance whether there be more or less usage, difficult, but it does give me some comfort that they are highlighting the fact that the season is May 1st and to October 31st, meaning overall there could be less net usage. Hard to say, but I just wanted to make that point.
That's possible. My thought was that perhaps they're renting it out for those 6 months and the homeowners are living in it the rest of the year. That's another option. So we just don't know. Yeah. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded that that we go with the recommendation. All in favor? Thank you very much. And next is Mrs. Coulson, that this is on protecting access to Crown land. Am I correct? Is that, it says Mrs. Coulson on it, but I wasn't sure who was going to do it. Page 154.
Yeah, your worship, yeah, in essence, I think council's aware, and we've had several concerns, comments from residents regarding, I guess, squatters on some of the environmentally sensitive areas just west of the golf course. So we received a request from residents as well as BC Forestry to put up a gate to detract from the squatters that are there. From an administrative perspective, we support this. We do have concerns, however, in that once this gate goes up, those people will move just a few 100 feet to the north. And so from administration perspective, we think this is a good first step, but believe that there should be additional consideration to address the issue, which we believe is just going to move further north. And so we believe that we recommend that council support this. We also recommend that council recommend to incorporate into the letter that additional piece of considering further north migration of the issue. And thirdly, that we work with the Soyuz Indian Band. We've heard that they also have significant concerns, and this might be a good opportunity to show a united front on dealing with this sensitive issue. That's all I have.
Thank you. So it's the installation of a gate at the access point to Crown land on Fairwinds Drive and Augusta Lane, and that we're recommending that council encourage the Ministry of Forest to consider options to restricting access to Crown land from the Strawberry Creek Road area and the OIB. So I think that having all three of those things in the letter makes sense to me. Go ahead, Councillor Chong.
Thank you. Well, that area is also very well used for recreation. So will the gate, is there certain times that it's open, certain times it's closed, or is it going to be completely closed? Or is this more so let's get a gate first and we'll figure it out after? Or
Dear Worship, I believe it is going to be a permanently installed gate that's going to be designed to limit like traffic. Trucks, motorhomes, campers, that type of thing. So as far as bikes and that type of thing, I think they'll still have access.
how about regarding dirt bikes, ATVs, side-by-sides?
I don't think it's even possible to do that unless you put the gate, around the entire perimeter of the area.
We could certainly add that into the letter if we're writing a letter of support, and just perhaps mention that there are concerns, what types of vehicles, what types of, I was thinking about bikes too, and I thought, well, that would be easy for them to get over, but I think it's mainly the campers and the motorhomes that are going up there and people living there that is the concern. But perhaps we could put it in the letter. I think Councillor Moreira had his hand up. Did you have? No, you're okay. Councillor King?
Well, I'll make a motion that we pass the gate what's recommended here.
And is there a seconder for that? Counselor Poderica? Are you asking to have, no, just the way it's printed, okay? Can we start with that, or did you want to add something?
Thank you. If the intent is always to really to prevent additional squatters from using or accessing the crown lands, I just want to make sure that we do make a comment that the gate is secure enough, because a chain and a lock is not going to
No.
really be a deterrent for anyone who's going to defy law in that regard. So I do want to make it abundantly clear to the ministry that this gate needs to be quite beefy.
I think there's, the RCMP have worked with the conservation officers and so on, and I think they've really looked into this quite carefully, and I think we can sort of assume, I hope, that they're looking at it. They don't want to have to go and replace it, I don't think.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can appreciate those concerns. I just want to make one more comment that within a lot of those trails, there is no motorized vehicles that are permitted. So with regards to dirt bikes, that type of thing, they shouldn't be up there. So if you're asking about that gate, if it's stopping that stuff, well, likely not, because they always find a way. But I do appreciate, again, your comments with regards to the beefiness. We'll see how it goes. Like the amend is required, because I think it, I mean, one of the positives is that, I mean, the cost of actually moving a lot of those people is fairly costly. So I've got to make that assumption that they're going to invest in this, hopefully preventative measure, again, to reduce costs of cleanup and that type of thing. But again, I think this is high on a lot of people's minds. So hopefully your comments are already being incorporated.
we've certainly had lots of letters from people who have walked up there, who like to go up there and go for a walk, and given us pictures of that garbage and the, things that have been left when people have moved. So I think this is a good answer to it, I'm hoping. So we have, it's been moved and seconded that the recommendation of staff is to go forward, and I'll call a question. All in favor? Thank you, that's carried. And next, Mr. Davis or his replacement. Mrs. Dennison, would you like to talk about community services budget amendment, please?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So in the summertime, we found that one of our rooftop units at the Sonora Community Center was not working properly. And so when we had that looked at and fixed, we had the contractor go through as part of some preventative maintenance, and found that the six other air handling units were not working as well. So they need to be fixed. Otherwise we will not have sufficient heat in the building throughout the wintertime. So the recommendation is that $25,000 that was allocated towards improvements for the weight room be reallocated towards the repairs for the rooftop units at the Sonora Community Center.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions on this or concerns? Councillor King? Okay, move the recommendation. And Councillor Poderica seconding that. Anything else? All in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next, Mr. Zackel.
Thank you, Mayor McKortoff. So
Talk
before
about the
council,
car wash.
Pioneer Car Wash, request for metered billing of water and sewer. Billings for utilities, water and sewer historically been billed on flat rates established under the town's water and sewer regulations bylaw. Town currently working towards universal water metering, but still in a pre-construction phase. Property owners of Pioneer Car Wash presented town with a letter dated May 31st and attended the August 13th committee of the whole meeting requesting that they be billed for their utilities based on metered consumption rather than the flat rate. This property in question currently does have a meter installed, and the town does have the ability to bill them on a metered consumption rate, as the metered rates are built already into our user fee bylaws. The 2024 annual billing currently for Pioneer Car Wash is $14,408. And this compares to the Oliver Car Wash in of the same type of usage, but their billing is $9,357.19. So our property owners here are requesting the opportunity to transition over early to metered water billing. In my perspective, the metered rates have gone up in proportion with the flat rates since the metered rates have been introduced and reviewed. So it is a fair way of charging out that water. When we look at our rate comparisons for metered usage, Osoyoos is not low, and it is comparable to West Kelowna, significantly higher than Oliver. In our statements, our CEO provided a statement that over the past several months, council's been presented with a significant amount of information pertaining to our domestic and wastewater systems. Clear that utilities require a significant amount of upgrades and have delayed maintenance replacement and will require further user fee increases. Increase approved in the 2024 budget was the initial step in making utilities full cost recovery and sustainable. The sudden increase has resulted in some customers reviewing their usage as well as their bills. Until such time as a metering or billing program incorporates both a flat rate and a variable rate based on consumption, there are going to be users that believe their existing fee system is unfair as they do not reflect their usage. Being a resort community with many residents and some businesses that still sit vacant for a portion of the year, compounds this perceived flaw in the existing flat rate billing system, especially considering the increases in fees that were just implemented. Changing the billing system to a flat fee plus variable rate is likely still 2 to 3 years away. Therefore, it's likely that further requests will result in shifting our billing from a flat fee to a metered rate. And the recommendation before council is that council direct administration to bill folio 00789.010 Pioneer Car Wash at 8310 74th Avenue, PAD 023-993-898 for water and sewer by metered, effective immediately, and be billed quarterly.
Thank you. Can you explain the remainder of 2024 would be billed in December then on the usage that that goes on from now until then? Is that what you're suggesting?
That is correct, Mayor McKortoff. So basically, currently the water and sewer billings are billed based on a calendar year. So they have been billed and have paid for the entire calendar year. If council agrees with administration's recommendation, then their 2024 flat rate bill will be prorated. And from the date of today, which the meter would be read, at December 31st, we'd reread that meter again and then bill them accordingly. So that's how we would recover that. As far as administrative staff time, at present, there isn't a lot of staff time that would be taken up to do this. We already would be working towards quarterly billings for water and sewer as it is. The only extra step is really reading the meter. Likewise, I know it's only one property. However, it does show intent that we are moving towards metering when we have the opportunity to do it.
Thank you. I'm a little bit concerned about comparing Osoyoos to Oliver in terms of the amount of I'm not sure whether it's the water usage or their bylaws that that talk about how much money they collect for this. Does the fact that Oliver has 3 bays, I think one inside, one out, and one that you have the brushes and all that kind of stuff, does that make any difference in why we're comparing these, and that Osoyoos is quite a bit higher? Is because of that or not?
Well, I believe that our rates are a little bit higher. As far as use, we've got the same size municipality in Oliver and surrounding area as compared to Vesuvius and surrounding area. Car washes are fairly similar in size. The Oliver car wash is actually using more water than the Vesuvius car wash at present. The nice thing about metering is the actual usage of what's going through there. So throughout the years, as we established the user fee bylaws, and they were based on flat rate and based on the estimated consumption of that day, um, there may have been efficiencies that have been incorporated into the systems. Like we had heard, they talked about that they inject air into the system to reduce the amount of water that's actually being utilized. So those could be basically improvements why we're seeing a lower volume of water compared to a similar place in Oliver.
I'd also like to point out that in Oliver, they do have water meters, universal water meters everywhere. So they're already part of that, that we're looking forward to, having once we get our water meters in.
Your worship, just before you begin discussing, just want to remind council and the water councilors that this is an item that would include them. So the water councilors get to vote on this one.
Absolutely, for sure. So, is there any other questions or, yeah, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to Director Zackel. I guess a couple concerns here. First off is I think we open ourselves up to a can of worms going forward. It's just one property, but what's there from others? Especially, we do know we're a few years away. We still really are still trying to, we're in such early stages of our billing process. But the one I think though is the numbers in here based on usage. 2021 obviously was a different year for some people. Some people were still staying at home every day. It was definitely different times from where we are today. I'm just concerned on the data from the time. Obviously, I think people probably spent more time at home, washing their cars at home, those types of other uses. But I guess the concern is, what stops the next applicant, especially those that are current metered based on whether it was a previous residential or commercial use, and how we address those issues. Because if one's going ahead with significant savings, and I hate to be in this situation, I guess down the road, there all of a sudden we realize our rates aren't reflective of our total costs and our total volume usage, that all of a sudden we're going back with a shocker surprise down the road with, oh, hey, we saved you this much in 2024, but we've readjusted the numbers in 2026 or 2027. And now we're back at this rate that puts you over and above, let's say, where you were before. And I don't know how we address that, but I guess that's my concern from us doing these one-off implementations for the billing process until we know the system's online and working and functioning, and we know what our actual volume is based on usage and everything else, especially in similar related properties. But
Go ahead.
So what I'm looking at is I'd be concerned about that if our rates were not at the level that they currently are. As an example, the 1.5 inch rate or size line going into this property compared to Oliver, our flat rate is $2,143 compared to Oliver's $834. The rate per cubic meter, ours is at $1.08 versus Oliver's at 92. Then we look at the sewer rate. Ours is at $2.36 and Oliver's is at $1. So now when we go through our universal water metering and we get that raw data back, and we'll have our experts do the analysis to determine our new variable and fixed rates moving forward. There will be a rate adjustment, absolutely. But at this point in time, what I'm looking at and what I have experienced at the other municipality I'd worked previously at is commercial properties are very unique in what they do. Some use way more water, some use less water, some are perceived to use more than others. Commercial businesses almost can be addressed completely separate than from residential properties. Residential properties are we're pretty good at estimating what those volumes of water would be. Yes, we have residential or vacant or vacation rental properties. So But we don't know how many are actually vacation rental properties versus people that are actually living in them now. So they have to be projected as a single family residence. So that's why from my standpoint, I'm okay with this moving forward. Will there be more? I assume so. But the positive thing about this is we're showing that we're doing something for that. The other positive thing for that is even from the finance staff perspective, even though we're starting off with one, staff are getting accustomed to the systems, how they're processing, how they're working, how they're charging, everything. So there's way more positives that I see that come out of this than the negatives of, oh my gosh, this is going to create a lot of administrative work moving forward. We are transitioning within 2 to 3 years, 100%. So this just gives us that ability to work on that.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Councillor
Madam
King.
Mayor. I'll move option one. And then the question is, will they be getting a new meter shortly, like we put near the top of the list? Because that meter, my understanding, is quite old, actually.
That meter is still in operation, so it works. It's recording accurately, so we would base it on that. I don't believe that meter is being changed. If it does, we would just get a new meter number and the reading on that and carry forward. It'd be no different than a meter exchange for any property, but no meter change on this one if we do this.
Okay, but because it's a manual, someone has to go inspect it quarterly. With the new ones, they wouldn't have to.
Yeah. Well, even with this one, we can read with the meter reader that we got, but the person drives around town to capture all that. We do have a couple locations where we have to go read meters manually already. So this isn't, no.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Bennett is seconding that. Did you have a, no? Okay, are there any other questions, any concerns about this? So, and this is the water councillors as well. So, I will call the question, all in favor? Against? Thank you. Thank you, that's passed. So next we have the general net payroll and Sun Bowl Arena financial accounts. And this report as of September the 10th is general cash requirements of $1,700,651.38. Sun Bowl cash requirements of $43,493.96. And net payroll accounts $292,736.01. So could I have a motion, please, to accept this for information? Councillor King, Councillor Poderico, all in favor. Thank you. And next is the building report. And as of, this was the month of August, wasn't a lot of building being done. Maybe it was too hot. I can't remember. $158,810. A revised single family dwelling to add a basement, demolition of a garage, and tenant improvements. So could we have a motion to accept the building inspector report, please? Thank you. Councillor Bennett, Councillor Chong, all in favor? Thank you. And next is the bylaws. This would be the 5-year financial plan amendment bylaw. Mr. Zackel.
Thank you, Mayor McKortoff. So before council's 5-year financial plan amendment bylaw 1386.01, 2024. The purpose of this amending financial plan is to adjust the budget for the timing of the fire engine 192 replacement. Back in 2023, council had given pre-budget approval to move forward with the purchase of engine replacement 192. We were informed back at that time that the procurement and arrival of a firefighter engine would take quite a substantial amount of time that we needed to get our process going and moving forward into the queue. In March of 2024, the procurement process was awarded to SafeTech for the engine replacement. At that time, we were also informed that it should take anywhere between 260 to 365 days for the unit to arrive. So for timing wise for the 2025 budget, we thought this was all going to fall into place. We've now been notified that the truck should be ready by the end of October. So, you know, great. So this was why the financial plan amendment is moving forward, transferring the amounts from 2025 to 2024. Funding is in place. Council's already approved the borrowing through the equipment financing under the 5-year term, from the resolution from council. So the recommendation before council is that council, the 5-year financial plan amendment bylaw 1386.01 2024 be read first, second, and third time. And then if council gives first 3 readings to that, we would post an advertisement into the Times Chronicle to allow the public for public input prior to adoption of the bylaw. That's one of our statutory requirements under the charter. And go from there.
So, Counselor Bennett is moving that. Is there a seconder? Counselor Poderica. Anything else on this? I mean, it's very uncommon for us to get things before they're scheduled to arrive, so this is quite unusual. Okay, I'll call a question. All in favor? Thank you very much. That's passed. Next, permissive tax exemption bylaw, Mr. Zackel.
Thank you. Thank you. So permissive tax exemption bylaw 1397 2024. Each year, council updates their permissive tax exemption bylaw, which is adopted no later than October 31st of each year. The tax exemption bylaw would take effect for the 2025 tax year. Notices will be published in the OCS Times for the estimated 2024 to 2026 permissive tax exemptions in the September 26 and October 3rd issues. The boat trailer parking lot has been removed from the permissive tax exemption bylaw, as this property was purchased by the town in 2023 and is exempt from taxation. So the option before council is that permissive tax exemption bylaw 1397 2024 be read a first, second, and third time.
Thank you very much. Council, what is your wish on this? Thank you, Counselor Bennett. Moving the recommendation. Is there a seconder? Counselor King. All in favor? Thank you very much. That's carried. And highlights, Mr. Risling, is this you that's doing this, or Mr. Zackel? Mr. Zackel, okay. Highlights of the 2025-29 Sun Bowl budget.
So before council is the Sun Bowl budget for 2025 to 2029. The requisition for the Sun Bowl Arena for 2025 is increasing by $96,395. 72.4% of this is paid by the town of Osoyoos. 27.6% of this is paid by Area A. This is a 15.52% increase and an increase of 2.36 cents per $1,000 of assessed value, which works out to an increase of $17 for an average single-family resident. The changes noted in 2025 operating revenue expenditures, user fee increases based on the rate review in 2024 and adopted by council in August. 2 capital projects. We've got the heat recovery exchanger of $250,000 and roof replacement of $300,000 are being funded from the Community Works Fund grant funding. $372,860 is the town of Osoyoos' portion, and $142,140 is Area A's portion. Wages and benefits have increased by $37,300. Fortis electricity is up by $7,000 due to rate increases. Water, sewer, and garbage up $6,520 due to the 2024 utility increases. Employee upgrading up $1,850 to assist with various training and upgrading from BC Recreation and Parks Association for the 3 full-time staff and 3 relief staff. Building repairs and maintenance $7,000 to assist with the increase in costs of supplies due to inflation. And Municipal Finance Authority equipment financing being reduced by $44,680 to adjust to what the actual debt payments are. The new items that are being added to the 2025 budget under equipment repair and maintenance, $25,000. In in 2025 and increasing to 40,000 thereafter. This account will be utilized for all minor equipment upgrades done at the Sun Bowl Arena, including such things like steel door replacements, hot water tank, concession upgrades, monofilament protective netting, flooring upgrades, mezzanine safety glass replacement, chair replacement, dasher board repairs, floor scrubber, kick stripper repairs, technical safety requirements, etc. Normally, these things were added in Gerald's capital budget, but they were always $5,000, $3,000, $10,000 natures, and they're really truly an operational maintenance expense. So we're trying to transition those those little minor maintenance items that we're showing in capital to be incorporated into operating and maintenance. The second one that we've got is the refrigeration plant maintenance of $30,000. This has always been shown as well in the capital projects area. And we're transferring it to the operating budget because again, truly, it's just a maintenance item. We do maintenance on that annually. Transfer to reserves of $25,000. This budget item has been added to assist with the reestablishing of a reserve fund to stabilize future requisitions and equipment replacement. And the last one is asbestos rebatement obligations of $69,275. Peak Environmental reviewed all of the town facilities and reported that there are $513,813.10 in the ARO obligations that are rated priority and 2 for the Sun Bowl Arena. These obligations are not required to be done immediately. However, they need to be monitored. Council has established ARO reserve funds in general taxation, water and sewer already. And to be consistent with prior decisions, annual funding of $69,275 has been included in a 2025 Sun Bowl budget. This will allow for full funding of the liability within 8 years, factoring in a 3% inflation and 3% rate of return. 2024 projects that were being carried forward is a key heat recovery exchanger of $250 or $15,000, and the Sun Bowl capital project that's in there for 2025 is a roof replacement of $300,000. And at this point in time, I'd ask council for any questions that they have.
Thank you. Anybody have any any concerns about the Sun Bowl budget? You know that the Sun Bowl Arena is owned by the regional district. The town of Vesuvius owns the property. So, but we all contribute into this budget. Go ahead, Councillor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What's the life expectancy of the building?
So that in itself, I believe Gerald's working on the report for that, but I've also got built into here. I was asking questions first before I got to the last one, but the lifespan of that building could be anywhere between 15 to 20 years remaining without significant improvements. I'm estimating. I had a statement in here that we have not included in the budget, but I have to make council aware of that. And that's basically establishing a building replacement reserve fund. We're estimating the cost of a new build in 2024 would have been $25 million. And it's more of a shock factor for council right now, but it's something we have to start thinking about and, for our future. Factoring in 3% inflation rate, a 3% rate of return on investment. If we were putting away annual reserve contributions of $1 million, it would take 42 years to save up enough money to pay for a new building, which would have cost the average single-family resident $176.39. And likewise, if we were putting away $2 million a year, it would take 15 years to fund that liability, but it would cost the average single-family resident $352.77. These are significant amounts, and there is no building reserve fund established for the Sun Bowl Arena.
So we also obviously need to do a building reserve fund for every building that the town owns, which could certainly add up.
Ultimately, yes, it's something that we need to talk, we need to debate, we need to figure out what is our course of plan moving forward.
But so right now you're just looking at information, and did you need a motion on this or what is required?
So the budget that's been prepared has got the $17 increase to the average single family resident. The only thing it has not included in the budget is establishing the building reserve fund. So that is entirely up to council, what council's decision is. We do need a resolution for forwarding this budget onto the RDOS. Because this budget gets incorporated into the RDOS budget, and the RDOS Board of Directors deliberate and vote on this budget. But we get first kick at the can because we're operating and maintaining it.
And so this needs to be, did you say needs to be done by the end of October?
Correct.
Yeah. Well, my thinking is that we can look at that, the $17 for average family residents, but I don't think we can today include, because we haven't really looked at all the ramifications of a building replacement reserve fund, so I think we have to leave that out of it. That would be what I would think. I'm not sure what the rest of you think. Anybody else want to discuss this, or are you okay with sending the requisition for the 96,000 increase in the paid for the town of Suez in Area A? Yes, go ahead.
I move that based on it's not gonna change next month or the next month, so we're kidding ourselves if we think it's gonna get lower. It's me.
So you're moving that. Is there a seconder? Counselor Chong. Anything else? So we will just go with the recommended motion that you have then. All in favor? Opposed? Counselor King's opposed. All right, thank you. That's carried. We will go on to the highlights of the fire department budget.
Okay. So the highlights for the 2025 to 2029 fire department budget. Osuis Fire Department services 3 areas: the town of Osuis, Osuis Indian Band, and the Osuis Rural Fire Protection District. Cost sharing is based on the 2024 assessments. Town of Osuis pays 59.1%, Osuis Indian Band pays 18.47%, and the Osuis Rural Fire Protection District pays 22.43%. The requisition for fire protection for the town of Osuis portion in 2025 is increasing by $88,048, which is a 10.39% increase, or an increase of 2.23 cents per $1,000 of assessed value, which is an average or an increase of $16.07 to the average single family resident. The operating expenditures are increasing overall by $197,665. We had a reduction in benefits of $5,500 to reflect projected actual costs. We had increased costs in the East Side Fire Hall of $9,890 as the lease was renewed in 2024. We had increase in gas of $1,900, increased in fleet insurance of $900, increase in equipment maintenance of $14,000. And that's mainly due to turnout gear being removed from the annual capital requests and incorporated into the operating budget. That was $16,000 for replacement of 5 sets of turnout gear per year, and a reduction of $2,000 to separate out office supplies into its own account. Increase in equipment financing for the purchase of the new equipment or the new engine 192 of $126,400 for the financing costs. Increase in training of $5,000, increase in annual testing and maintenance of $2,400, increase radios and pagers $1,000. Like I alluded to earlier, the new account office supplies of $2,000, increase in fleet equipment repairs and maintenance of $1,000, increase in wages of $35,675, and an increase in utilities of $3,000. The 2024 project that was being carried forward, and we've just now done the financial plan amendment. That was the engine 192. So I'll be pulling that component out of this report Our 2025 fire department capital projects, overhead door replacement for $75,000. This is the rear set of doors to be replaced and fixed. Our staff has reviewed the options of what's taken place so far. We've got Wine Country doors replacing the front ones, and all of our research has proved that we have no other alternative but to go the same route for the back doors. So that's the budget for 2025. We've got battery operated jaws of life for 25,000, and this last one I will have our deputy chief speak to. It's a used aerial opportunity which is equipped for $60,000. You want to speak to that one?
Maybe I can take it a bit. I think we've heard loud and clear from council and the residents that we've got to look at doing things maybe a little bit differently, and the team has looked at maybe some potential additional options. I think you've heard on numerous occasions, or at least through the recent bus review and apparatus review, an aerial is something that would definitely enhance safety and provide enhanced fire protection. We did find out that at least at this stage, it wouldn't improve our bus ratings without doing a bunch of additional things. But we do know that within the community, we are increasing the number of higher structures, and at some point, we have to likely improve our fleet. So one of the things we've been looking at is potentially a used apparatus to deal with this shortcoming within the firefighters. And again, it's a lot has to do with our safety of our volunteers. So one of the things that we're putting in here or recommending is to maybe provide some leeway for us to look at a used apparatus. And we definitely are likely doing used wouldn't provide us with exactly what would be the ideal requirement of the community, but it might be a bit of a stopgap measure for several years if we could find one that is slightly used. We wouldn't want to purchase one that has a significant amount of hours on it and a lot of use, but once in a while you do get the opportunity, or one comes up that has very limited use. So this was then, considering all the budget pressures are out there, considering the concerns that we've heard from the fire department, and looking at safety and just the overall improvement of fire safety within the region, thought maybe this might be a compromise for council to consider. Again, I think it's important to note that we're looking at a used fire truck. Again, it's not going to improve our fuss rating, but it will improve our firefighting capabilities. And there always are risks associated with a used truck, especially something that's in the 20-year range. But again, we would be looking at finding a truck that is very lightly used rather than one that's been through the ringer quite a bit. So I'm not sure if
I'd like Deputy Chief Hudema to talk about this a little bit. I'm wondering, if you get this new truck, where are you going to put it? Do we have space indoors to house something like this?
Yes,
We
Your
do.
Worship, we
Okay,
do
could
have
you-
room in our halls, or Station 191 currently to house this vehicle.
Okay.
Yes.
So would you like to speak to this at all? And what do you think about this used one? Have you looked at it?
I have not physically looked at it. I've seen some pictures. I've talked to a number of fire truck techs. The hours on this truck are 191 hours on this truck with this just shy of 15,000 kilometers on it. So it's not a heavily used truck. The ladder on this truck is a 50-footer. It's a little shorter than obviously what we would optimally like. 100-footer is what we would prefer. But this truck would definitely give us the capabilities of building that stopgap for council at this time.
So why are these people selling it? The
Because
group that's offering this to you.
they're getting a new one.
Oh, okay.
They're getting a new one.
Go ahead, Mr. Zackel.
The other thing that we have to mention as well is in our 2024 to 2028 5-year financial plan, in 2028, we were budgeting for the aerial apparatus of, I believe at that time, 2.3 million. That with the purchase of this used aerial, it gives us the opportunity to defer that a number of years. And likewise also give us that ability, like CAO Risling was speaking to, of finding a less cost alternative used one. You know, as we're proceeding, so $60,000 versus 2.3 million is a little bit different. And it gives us that opportunity to provide that extra safety for our residents as well. I mean, it gives firefighters another opportunity to provide egress out of a burning structure that wouldn't have happened if they were fighting the fire from the ground.
My only thing is 2.2 million versus 60,000, like it doesn't even make sense. I mean, I think it's great if we have the opportunity to get it, but somehow it just doesn't seem like it should even be a possibility. So, I mean, I guess you've looked into it and you will, but 60,000 now, versus 2.2 million, we're looking at 2028, certainly makes sense. So nobody has any concerns about this. Counselor King?
Yeah, just thank you, Madam Mayor. Question about the battery operated jaws of life. How many of them do you have already?
Through your worship, we don't have any battery operated jaws of life at this time. The technology is definitely going in that direction. All the new tools that are coming out for the jaws. Most of the departments now are switching over to the battery operated jaws. The versatility and the usability of the tools with the battery operated have increased so dramatically over the last number of years. There's no comparison between the two tools. The old hydraulic tools, you have a gas pump, you got hoses, and then you got the hydraulic tool. The tool is slightly heavier than the old hydraulic ones. The new ones now, the power that's in behind these new tools is about 5 times of what the old ones were. So the technology is really going to that way. This gives us an opportunity to start on that trail, because the jaws, they're a relatively expensive piece to replace. This one will also give us the ability to increase our ability to access some of these occupancies that are starting to get more and more locked up because of theft.
I guess the other question to follow, what's the life expectancy of a battery?
They've got a 2-year warranty on the battery through and through. The life expectancy, they're the new ones, the 2 new ones that are out right now, they do not have a definite life expectancy of them. The home ultra ones, which we had recently seen the other day, they're the ones that they have in use for practice, have gone through many cycles, and the batteries are still as they bought them in day one.
Here's the question, what's the cost to replace a battery?
Through your worship, it depends on which tool you are buying. So the jaws that are here, the home ultra tool, the replacement battery is about $1,100. No. And they are replaceable, they are interchangeable.
Less than the cost of me replacing the battery in my car.
Okay, thank you. One more question, Madam
Yeah.
Mayor. Thank you. I guess I think it's a great idea, this aerial truck for 60,000. Sounds a little unrealistic. It needs over 2 million. What's the guarantee it comes in at 60 and all of a sudden it's 80 next month and we got to increase the budget another 20?
So I guess we're coming to you with 60,000 if things do change. We can't go over it. So it's like, I think it's like anything else. If I think we want to concentrate on making sure we get a truck that has minimum usage.
Mhm.
And our goal is to meet that target. if things change, we'd come back to council and inform them as such.
So if we're gonna get it, we should do it quickly. That's what you mean. Okay. So, thank you for the explanation for that. Mr. Zackel, did you have anything else that you wanted to include in your report that you've given us?
Thank you, Mayor McKortoff, and yes, I do want to report as well an item that is not included in the budget again. And we start talking about the establishing of a building replacement fund. This building is newer,
Mhm.
thank God. However, even looking at replacing and that fire hall at this present time would cost estimated amount of $15 million. And when you factor in a 3% inflation and 3% rate of return on investments, putting away $500,000 a year would take 64 years to fund that liability. That's a $77 hit to our single family resident. Likewise, at $1 million, it would take 19 years to build up that fund. So just so council's aware, I mean, the longer we wait for putting money away, the more it's going to cost our taxpayer in the long run, unfortunately.
Okay, so we get it, the same as the last one. So, what are we looking at today? The requisition for 88,000, and it has to be, provided to by the end of October? Does it?
So the fire department budget needs to be provided to the Osoyoos Rural Fire Protection District so that they can meet their statutory deadline of I believe it's October 31st. Historically in the past, staff has worked with the fire chief or deputy chief to present the budget to the Rural Fire Protection District so that we can receive their input into this as well. So at this point in time, rather than this budget be approved, I would suggest that this budget be forwarded to the Rural Fire Protection District and incorporated into our 5-year financial plan. Because then at that very least, unless there's something wrong that council wishes to make changes at this point in time.
Did you have a question?
No, I support this going forward. I just want to make sure you exclude the reserve fund. Won't be in.
The building reserve fund is not included in it at this time. The only other thing that council may wish to consider, and that's because of timing issue, because of the opportunity, is maybe even to the point of receiving pre-budget approval on that $60,000 if staff is able to secure a significant deal of that at that cost, because it's if an opportunity comes, they disappear very quickly.
So does that pre-budget approval have to go before we forward it to the rural fire? Or
No,
can,
it
no?
can happen. It can happen
At the
right
same
away if
time?
you wish. Yeah.
Has a meeting been set up with the rural fire district at this point?
No,
No,
it would
okay.
be set up. I would establish that meeting probably to happen sometime in October when I'm
Okay.
back.
Well, I agree with you. If this is a good deal and to get this, this aerial fire truck, we need to move on it as quickly as possible, I think. So,
Pass a motion from the budget here.
to have it forwarded to rural fire. Okay, is there a seconder? Thank you. Any questions on it? All in favor? Thank you very much. And
Motion to approve 60,000, give the opportunity arises for the ladder truck.
and that's appropriate to do now too. Okay, moved and seconded. That Councillor King, Councillor Poderica, that we pre-approve the 60,000. Go ahead.
Would it be prudent to also approve or amend the motion to have an upper ceiling if the price does increase?
I'm out of sync here, but I happen to have some information.
Please go ahead.
You haven't considered is that
You need to turn on your, thank you.
the rural fire protection district pays 21% towards that truck.
Yes.
So if you don't
Yeah.
need 60,000, you only need like 42,000.
He can't.
And they would put
No.
in the est.
Sorry, Water Councillor Appleby, this is another discussion. This is not,
Yes, I know.
yeah,
I
it's
just-
not,
I
it's
said
not,
that when I opened
yeah,
it up.
yeah.
so.
We're okay with this, and we will certainly have the people in the rural fire get on board. You're one of them, aren't you? Oh, you're not. I thought you were one on the board. Okay, so where are we at? We had that motion passed? Great.
The 60,000 is on the table.
Moved and seconded,
yeah,
but
for
not
pre-approval,
passed.
But not
All
passed.
in favor? Thank you very much. That's carried. So we're on to the Accessibility and Age-Friendly Committee meeting minutes. They have been included in here. Councillor King, did you have anything to add to this, or Mrs. Dennison?
Pretty much Dennison, right? I actually wasn't at the last meeting. I had to go to the BYLAWS.
Sorry, thank you. I wasn't at the last meeting either. So, I don't really have anything to add to
Okay,
the minutes.
so it was in here that was on the 18th of July. I thought you were there at that meeting, Miss Councillor King. No?
Part of this, you were.
I think it was August the 15th. Yeah.
Any discussion?
Yes.
What's next on the agenda about the tricycle, people around in the railing, the canal, walkway. And, I gotta say, the committee is very active in what they do in the town.
Sorry, you need your microphone.
Sorry, most people show up at all the meetings and there's major discussions on how we can improve this town and stay ahead of the rest of the province for accessibility.
No, I agree. I think you have a good committee and there are lots of things presented to. I think that, well done. Thank you. I like the mobility trailer that's down at Gyro. We also have the town trailer that's down there that has the garbage cans and everything else for special events. So we're lucky. We've had 2 of those, in 1 year, I think. Anything else then? So we need a motion. Oh, sorry, Councillor Chong.
Thank you. Just a question about the GPS units. $120 per year per unit. Are these specialized anti-theft GPS units? Is that why?
It's to identify a piece of equipment.
Yeah.
It's so if a piece of equipment does disappear, if your communities don't have them, we think we should have them. Yes.
No, it's I know they've already been purchased and whatnot, so it's kind of a moot point. But it seems, are they subscription based then? Okay, fair enough.
Okay. All right, so could we please have a motion to receive the minutes of July the 18th, 2024 from the Accessibility Age Friendly Committee? Thank you, Councillor Poderica, Councillor King, all in favor. Thank you very much. And next we have the report from our Chief Administrative Officer, please. I'm sorry. What have
Sorry,
I missed?
Mayor, we have a few more from the committee of the whole meeting
Oh.
that we were bringing forward.
I'm
Sorry.
and I've missed the whole page. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
sorry.
Because this is on this, okay. So, no, that's the in-camera part. I don't have that, whatever you're talking about. Where am I going to find that?
Okay, so that is around the accessibility. Yeah, so I can just read the motions,
Sure,
Mayor.
please do.
So from the September 10th committee of the whole meeting, the motion that was moved and seconded and carried was that the Town of Oseas Board of Variance Bylaw number 1398, 2024 be initiated by bringing first readings to the September 24th, 2024 regular council meeting. So we need a motion that states the same, that the Town of Oseas Board of Variance Bylaw number 1398, 2024 be initiated by bringing first 3 readings to the September 24th, 2024 regular council meeting.
Thank you very much. So is there somebody who would like to move that? Thank you. Councillor King, Councillor Chong, all in favor. Thank you. Was
got
there another one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, you got another one?
Yes, sorry, there'll be another one. Okay, so then we have that the committee, from the committee of the whole meeting, that the Committee of the Whole receive the report for information and request that administration report with an implementation plan for a sand toy share box at Legion Beach.
Thank you. And we had that report from Mrs. Dennison this morning. So is there anybody who'd like to, Counselor Chong's moving that, Counselor Bennett seconding it, all in favor? Thank you very much.
Okay, and
Now-
then,
Oh,
sorry, there is one more.
okay.
So, if you could go up, because, so we did speak about the mayor, I'm sorry to ask, but we
No.
discussed the accessibility and age-friendly meeting. Now we have to go back and talk about the council received the accessibility committee projects report from the September 10th, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting, and that we approve the projects. I did not hear that motion. Thank you.
And seconded, Counselor
Puerto
Poderica.
Perfect.
All in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, now we can go down to the Chief Administrative Officer report. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Mr. Riz.
Thank you, Your Worship. I know I spoke of this morning earlier today about the water meter project. Just want to inform the public that it's going to be done in various geographic locations. So starting mid-month, there will be some letters sent out to the area that's chosen to start the water meter installation first. Just a couple other pieces. It will take installation will take about 1 to 3 hours, depending on how it looks, and will require an adult within the building while that is occurring. A couple other things. Talk about the accessibility trailer down Gyro. It's been there for approximately 1 month, and I just want to mention that it's there because we really do want it to get used as much as possible. We got save the date for the rec master plan. That's September 25th, 5:30. It's the Sonora Community Center. So definitely you want some input into how the community is going to look from a recreation perspective, please attend. Also fairly soon, we're going to be opening up the grant applications for the RMI and the community grants. So for those nonprofit organizations that are looking for some financial assistance, please take note of that. Terry Fox Run is scheduled for the 15th, and it'll be start at the Sonora Community Center. Annual pass sale is starting tomorrow, so September 11th to 17th. There's our sale of our membership passes, which is basically 30% off our regular prices. And our fall program and activity guide is now out, so registration starts tomorrow. So for those that want to get into some of the programs, tomorrow's the big day. Yeah, the Soyuz Curling Club had their curling ball and spiel, 120 participants, and also the pickleball courts tournament this past weekend. Other quick things here, just want to talk about firefighter grant and basic, both have received certificates for completing the firefighting training program. Again, these people put in a lot of hours and significant amount of dedication to protect our community. So I just want to do a kudos to those folks. Also, I think the only other thing I want to say is a couple things on the negative side. Just we are having to fix our swim ropes quite a bit, and so like people are tying their boats up to them, and we've got some cooperation from some of the local hotels, and just trying to remind people don't use our swim ropes for boat anchors and that type of things. We've had to go out and repair them on several occasions, and also there was some vandalism up at the Soyuz golf course, so we've had to. And they've gone in through the West Bench ball field, so we put a couple barricades up there to protect the golf course, which is a fantastic recreation facility that not only our locals use but also our tourism. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Risling. Could we have a motion, please, to receive the CAO report for information? Councillor Poderica, Councillor Chong, all in favor. Thank you. And so we'll look at council reports. Councillor King.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess kudos should go out to the music in the park. The crowd they had last Friday, I think the whole town showed up. I mean, there was definitely only standing room only. I don't think you could set a chair down there anywhere. It was fantastic to see. Also, the Pride Parade just happened over the weekend. A great event that was on all day. And I just want to mention that Coyotes hockey starts up this weekend, or next weekend, I mean. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. August 21st, I attended the open house for the hospice medical rooms at Mariposa. And basically have two new rooms over there, which is fantastic for the town. Also found out that the hospice house itself has 4 beds and they're leaving them open to medical students or doctors and nurses, and $40 a night, and they share a kitchen. Then August 22nd, cooked some hot dogs at the family splash park and watched all the little kiddies have a ball. And September 9th, I attended the BC Municipal Climate Leadership Council meeting with Honorable Josie Osborne. It was kind of interesting to see what all these other communities are doing to identify opportunities to generate solar power and wind and water, and concern of lack of power to a lot of small communities if the power goes out. So it was a really interesting. That's my report.
Thank you. Councillor Chong.
Thank you. Let's see here. Attended Sears Beach Volleyball, the wind up tournament, and just wanted to really give a very heartfelt thank you to the Barge family, Jason and Amy. This was the 20th year of the league, and starting from, I believe, the parking lot of Vengeance, far before my time. But has grown to be essentially for many of us a highlight of the summer. So a lot of kudos. Know how many man hours and sweat and tears that goes into building something that is that successful. So again, just wanted a huge shout out and thank you. Also attended the Pride event, and then also wanted to highlight that been working with a subcommittee spearheaded by Dr. Robin Craven. And the whole goal is there's going to be a tour for medical residents who are completing I believe their family medicine rotation on September 18th. So they'll be doing a tour of multiple different areas in Oliver, and I believe Desert Sun Counseling as well. And this tour is a fantastic opportunity to show medical professionals essentially what the South Okanagan has to offer. So this year there wasn't a time where I believe budget to include a SUYAS, but we've been told that next year a SUYAS will be another stop on the tour. So really looking forward. Unfortunately, we'll be in UBCM, but looking forward for next year where we can all be a bit more involved as well to help with healthcare professional recruitment and retention, which is in dire need. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to say that on Monday morning in Vancouver at UBCM, Mayor Johansson and I have a meeting with Minister Dix, and it was to look at building affordable housing in Oliver, close on lands near at the hospital, I believe, and to look at housing medical students and medical practitioners that would come in. So all of these things tie together, and anything that we can do to help the situation is certainly important. So thanks. Councillor Poderica.
Thank you, Your Worship. This past Friday, I actually had a night off, so I was able to actually attend Music in the Park. Great turnout for Eagle Eyes. That's the second time I've been able to see them down there, and we're all a good turnout and really good night. Saturday, I had the opportunity to attend the opening ceremonies for Pride Arts Festival with yourself. I had to unfortunately leave before the parade started, but you did a great job leading the parade with the organizers. So I just want to thank Southern Looking Pride Arts as well as Pride Society as well as Dawna for the great work they did over the weekend. And of course, next week is UBCM, and we are fortunate to have an opportunity to meet with Mr. King, Mr. Municipal Affairs, and look forward to a busy week, an educational week, and a great opportunity for us to work with our other municipal colleagues across the province. And that's my report.
Thank you. So I certainly appreciate all of the work that the Music in the Park has done. 12 concerts this year, and they do an amazing job at putting that on, and it's very well publicized, and it's very well a point. Lots of people are there. I know that the film crew was here, doing at the Sun Bowl Arena for a week, taping Tracker, a show that I have not seen, but apparently I'm supposed to. And you could see all the trailers and so on over there. I think they were here for a week and it was a very successful undertaking. So I think that's terrific. I was on a quarterly call with the International Suez Lake Board of Control last week, and they were, of course, talking about drought. Fortunately, there are 4 of us that are local on that board because many of them come from Washington, D.C., from Ottawa, from Tacoma, from Seattle, and so they rely on us to give them some up-to-date information that we can see. There is a salmon run on right now, and there is salmon fishing. Department of Fisheries and Oceans has done that. There's apparently quite a few salmon that have, because they have them tagged, that have passed the Zozel Dam, come into Suez Lake hot. And the South Basin is much warmer than the North Basin because the North Basin's much deeper. But there are some areas where it's cooled off, thank heavens, and the fish sort of stay there until they can make a run up the river system, get into Skaha Lake, and they've even got into Okanagan Lake. So we're hoping that that is a good thing, and people are, at this point, can go out fishing for salmon. I think it's 2 per day. Lots of RDOS meetings. Councillor King goes when I can't, but we try and make sure we keep up to date on that. And I was at one last week. I mentioned this, I think it was this morning that I was talking about Okanagan Basin Water Board, the AGM, and talking about South Nevada, where they're really working very hard to try and maintain what water they have because there's a scarcity. And so we need to learn some lessons from them. I was at the Pride Arts event on Saturday, and I did speak and brought greetings from the town of Vesuvius, and I was also in the parade with some of the organizers. Very positive event, a great day, and there were lots of musicians and dancers and performers, and a food and beer and wine garden and a market. So I'm assuming that that everybody that went down there had a lot of fun. And next week, we will be at UBCM, several meetings arranged, one with the Highway 3 Coalition, which I'm on, Highway 3, the Crow's Nest Pass, and another one with a meeting of a lot of mayors and CAOs that are looking at how do we deal with hospital closures, emergency room closures in the province. And there's a bunch of us getting together to have a look at that. Councillor Bennett is going to attend that one as well. And so we look at how we can chat with other members of municipalities around the province and learn a lot of things. There's a lot of educational things. There's resolutions to be had. So I think it will be, we're looking forward to a good 5 days that we will have down there. So that's my report, and I will move to the in-camera session, and that pursuant to section 91 of the community charter, a part of the council meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered relates to any one of the following: 91C, labor relations or other employee relations; 91I, the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary; 91K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages and that in the view of council could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public; and 91M, a matter that under another enactment is such that the public may be excluded from the meeting under FOIPA section 16, disclosure harmful to intergovernment relations or negotiations. So could I have a motion, please, to Councillor? Okay, Councillor Poderica, Councillor Bennett, all in favor. Thank you, everybody. We will move to the